Americans. Knowledge, History, and Stories. A lesson on settler colonialism, decolonization, counter-storytelling, and community cultural wealth. So, what do we first learn about Native Americans? The story of the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims were the founding fathers of the United States and sailed here on the Mayflower in 1620, choosing Plymouth Harbor as their settlement. Native Americans were only a small part of the overall population when the Pilgrims arrived. The Pilgrims introduced the tradition of Thanksgiving and the food to Native Americans, known as the first Thanksgiving. What is the Native American perspective? Why aren't we taught it? It comes from this idea of settler colonialism, which means the removal and erasure of indigenous presence, and also the stories of Native Americans are often wrong or incomplete. Historical depictions, genocide of Native Americans through disease and conflicts, and the stealing of land through broken or ignored treaties. Modern-day depictions, textbooks including only European views that highlight positive American attributes. Mainstream media does not include prominent American figures or stories, and the government continues to steal land from indigenous people for private profit. So, how do we combat settler colonialism? Where do we begin? With decolonization. And it comes from this idea from Nikki Sanchez that decolonization is for everyone. So the first steps to decolonization are acknowledging your history and how your people came to this land, and addressing the oppressive histories that took place to be on this land. Decolonization looks like giving up privileges that directly disempowers, appropriates, or invisibilizes others, and celebrating who we are and the knowledge we bring to help solve global challenges. So what's another way we can begin to combat settler colonialism while also practicing decolonization? Counter-storytelling. So what is it? Experiences of those on the margins of society, a tool for exposing, analyzing, and challenging the majoritarian stories of racial privilege. And it's used to shatter complacency, challenge the dominant discourse on race, and further the struggle for racial reform. So now, let's think about the story of the Pilgrims. What is the counter story? What is the Native American perspective? So, while the Pilgrims did sail on the Mayflower in 1620, they originally set sail to Virginia, but mysteriously ended up in Massachusetts at Plymouth Harbor. Now, the land at Plymouth was ideal for Pilgrims because the natives knew how to take care of the agriculture and the cold climate already. Plus, Native Americans, the Dutch, and the Spanish were already settled into the land decades prior. Now, the Native American population dwindled in size when the Europeans arrived because Europeans brought countless diseases, and it wiped out approximately 95% of the population, the native population, from Massachusetts and to the west. Native Americans in Massachusetts introduced the Pilgrims to the celebration of Thanksgiving. Eastern Native Americans observed autumn harvest festivals for centuries. The food at the first Thanksgiving was indigenous and provided by the natives. So, we can think about what the importance of counter stories like this are. And it's about celebrating their knowledge and their histories. But we can also take that a step further with community cultural wealth. So what is it? It's an array of knowledge, skills, abilities, and contacts possessed and utilized by communities of color to survive and resist multiple forms of oppression. What does it look like? Well, there's 10 forms of capital. But for this, we will be focusing on familial and ecological. So, community cultural wealth. Let's begin with some definitions. Familial capital. The cultural knowledge that is nurtured among family that carry a sense of community, history, memory, and cultural intuition. Ecological capital. Knowledge about nature, ecology, and the environment. So let's recap on the counter story and look at some examples. So familial capital. So the Autumn Harvest Festival was practiced for centuries. It's a great tradition that they've always had. Tech and culture was rival to Europeans at the time. They had countless wisdom of the land, and they told many stories of colonizers that they passed down through generations. Ecological capital. They burned underbrush and cleared fields. They planted cornfields and had an abundance of corn and other materials. And a brook of fresh water went through the area because they knew that would be beneficial for agriculture. So, let's think of the takeaways. So, acknowledging our responsibility in combating settler colonialism, actively decolonizing systems, and critiquing those systems of oppression. Celebrating the stories, knowledge, and histories of Native American people. Understanding that counter stories are powerful tools that share Native experiences. And recognizing the various forms of community cultural wealth demonstrated by Native Americans. Thanks for watching.